Welcome back everybody, today we're going to do Ghost of Tsushima on ARC GPU. The dev didn't propose any ARC GPU, so we're going to find out how they fare with every variant of the Alchemist series. I'm going to test on the i5-9600K and 16GB of memory. Welcome to Respawn PC, I'm Dunk, let's game on. Starting off with the lowest end of the ARC GPU series, the A310, we're going to play at the 1080p. I was able to put the setting at the medium with XeSS at balance. We get an average of 33 FPS, going as low as 25 FPS in some area and as high as 44 FPS at others. Having the GPU peg at 100%, obviously, using 4.9GB of VRAM out of 4, so we're using 900MB from the system memory, which is using 10.6 out of 16, so we're still okay. And the CPU is in the 20s of utilization. It is a really playable experience, and if you want more FPS, you can even drop some settings to low or change XeSS to performance. But I'm quite happy with those settings, being able to play at over 30 FPS and quite a decent graphical visual at medium. Jumping up a notch to the ARC A380, this is a 6GB VRAM card. The GPU is still pegged at 99%, using 6.5GB of VRAM, so we're using 500MB out of the system memory, but we're using only 10.3GB of system memory, so we're still good, and that is at 1080p at high settings with XeSS at quality. That gives us a good 37 FPS average with lows of 29 and highs of 44. Again, if you prefer to have something closer to 60 FPS, you can definitely drop XeSS to balance or performance, or even drop from high settings to medium or even low. But since the game is visually appealing, I'd rather have higher visual settings than higher FPS, as long as I'm over 30. Next up in line is one of my favorite, the ARC A580. This 8GB VRAM card is faring quite well for this game. At high settings, 1080p and XeSS quality, we get an average of 75 FPS in high dense scene. And the GPU is not even pegged at 100%. We are in the 90s to mid-90s. Even the VRAM, out of 8GB, we're using 7GB of VRAM. For the system memory, we're at 9.9, 10GB of system memory usage. It's quite decent, and you can probably push the settings to ultra, but besides having a drop of FPS and not really a gain in visual quality, I will stay at the high settings. When you're not fighting a bunch of enemies at the same times, the GPU can achieve an average of 89 FPS. A really nice card to have. Next up in the lineup is the A750 meets the ER, the Elden Ring edition. We can push the settings to very high with XeSS ultra quality and still reaching a 74 FPS average. The GPU is pegged at 99%, obviously, using 7.9GB of VRAM out of 8. That's perfect. The CPU is in the mid 50s and the system memory at 10.6, so everything is fine with that setup. You can even probably play at 1440p at the medium or high with XeSS quality, but if you want the best visual, it would be 1080p very high and XeSS ultra quality. It is a highly playable experience with the best visual you can get at 1080p. You can probably get higher FPS with a higher end card, but is it really necessary to have a 200 FPS for this kind of game? I don't think so. And lastly, the ARC A770 LE edition, so this is the 16GB variant, still at 1080p, very high settings and ultra quality XeSS. And we got the exact same result as the A750. The A770 is more like a 1440p resolution card, but my editing ring was buzzy rendering stuff, so I just test at 1080p for now. We were using the exact same amount of VRAM, 7.8. The CPU was at the same performance utilization, and for the system memory we're still at the 10.1, 10.2, so absolutely no difference, 750 and 770 at this resolution and settings. And if you look at all the result of today's testing of the ARC GPU series, I'll say again it's the A580 the winner on Ghost of Tsushima. Dollar by FPS is the best bet, and I'm happy to see that even the A310 can play this game decently. Unless you want to play at 1440p, then it will be the A770. Otherwise, the best budget ARC GPU so far is still the A580. And that's all for today's ARC GPU on Ghost of Tsushima. Thanks to have come watching, and see you on the next one. And subscribe.